Good morning. It's Friday morning, and here we have finally made it to Matthew 28. So we will read verses 1 through 10. Now, after the Sabbath, toward the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. And for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen. As he said, come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and behold, he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him. See, I have told you." So they departed quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy and ran to tell his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." They came up and took hold of his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see me." An interesting telling of the story, and it's interesting for you to take the four Gospels and take those the resurrection stories out of the four Gospels and compare them, because they're all slightly different. It's as though the disciples know the basic tale, but they can't quite get the story straight. Who were the women who went? How many women? Were there guards there? Was the stone rolled away? Was it not? All these questions. And what we determine is that this is probably eyewitness testimony, precisely because the details are fuzzy and disagree a little bit. If everybody told exactly the same story, then we know that they sat in a room somewhere and wrote the story down and made everybody memorize it. And that's not the way life goes. It's what I think anyway. So, two Marys go to the tomb, first day of the week, early Sunday morning, and an angel descends, and there's a big earthquake because, angels have this effect. This angel looks like lightning. His appearance his clothing is white as snow, and the gospel writers generally are at loss as to how to explain this appearance of this being. I think it's Mark that says his clothing was so white as no fuller could bleach it. Now, a fuller is a person who bleaches things with bleach. No fuller could ever get anything that white. So, they're just doing their best to describe this brilliant white being. For fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. My fellow Wofford graduate, Will Willimon, became a Methodist pastor and then a Methodist bishop, and then was dean of the chapel at Duke for a decade or so, and went on to do some other things, and I think he's retired by now. Willimon is a fantastic preacher. And back in the day, I read a sermon that he wrote, I think while he was at Duke, but he talked about these guards becoming like dead men, and it was a wonderful, wonderful Easter sermon. I can't find it now. I think it's behind a paywall, and I'm too cheap to pay the fee. But if you happen to find it on the internet, read that sermon. It's wonderful. It's a great piece. But the guards just go catatonic like dead men. And the angel says to the women, "Don't be afraid. You come here to find Jesus, but he's not here because he is risen. He is risen from the dead." And so he's not here, and there's nothing for you to do. You can't anoint his body because his body is gone. But go and tell his disciples to meet him in Galilee. And so that's what the women do. And then, of course, as they're leaving, they meet Jesus himself, and he repeats that. Tell him I'll be there in Galilee. Um, and again, John has Mary Magdalene meeting Jesus in the garden and thinking he's the gardener, and tells a bit more of a story about that. So the Gospels differ a little bit, but here these women meet Jesus. So at any rate, if we're looking for what really happened, the women went to the tomb. The tomb was empty. They run around, and at some point they see Jesus, the risen Lord, appears to them and says, "Don't freak out. Tell the disciples I will meet them in Galilee." And they do. And we'll read a bit more about that in the next day or two. So today, even though it's a Friday and even though it's January, we'll celebrate the resurrection. St. Augustine said once, "We are Easter people, and Easter is, and Alleluia is our song." And I don't know the context to which he said that. I've heard it quoted all the time, almost to the point of being trite. But we are people who celebrate Easter every time we gather in worship. We should remember that, because the resurrection is the thing that makes all the difference. The resurrection is the key point of our faith. Without the resurrection, you have a good teacher who got into trouble and got himself killed. With the resurrection, you have a hope of new life. Without the resurrection, you can take it or leave it. But with the resurrection, it really makes all the difference. So think about the resurrection. Give thanks for the resurrection. And know that in the resurrection, you have hope, and nothing will ever change that. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.